And hello, everyone, and welcome to the RZNGMEN show. And I'm your host, Craig Carlisle. And I've got a great friend of mine who's on the phone with me, Darius Riggins. How you doing out there, sir?
Doing just fine, brother. Yourself?
Outstanding. And now for the topic for everyone to understand is this is like part two of what we're doing to celebrate and put some shine on the caregivers for men whose wives have breast cancer who have been or fighting and recovering from their bout with breast cancer. So last week we had Zoltan Cunningham on and his wife, Sharon Cunningham. They were, both recovering not both, but she was recovering from breast cancer surgery. And today we have Darius Riggins. And Darius, your wife, Stephanie, you and I go back to what, like 11, 12, 13 years old back in Oceanside when my dad used to be the pastor of your church.
Yes.
And Stephanie, you and Stephanie met in high school. And I know that's pretty wild because knowing her, I didn't actually meet her until after my dad actually left that church.
Yes, this is true. If you recall, we actually were sophomores at Northridge when I met Stephanie. But Stephanie was still in high school at the time.
I got you. So okay. So help me understand. Because sometimes my memory get a little foggy. So did you happen to just go back to Walker Chapel and then see her, and you went like, "Oh man, I gotta have her"? And is that how that happened, or did you knew her somehow before?
Kind of like what you just said. What happened was, if you recall, our mutual friends, Daryl and Vaughn, that were still going to Walker Chapel. When Stephanie's father, the late Reverend Costin Sr., started pastoring Walker Chapel, and the family showed up, Vaughn and Daryl immediately called me and said, "Man, you have to come down and check out the pastor's daughters." So that very next weekend, I went down, as I usually did, to spend the weekend with mom and dad. And on Sunday, I went into the pastor's office to really just welcome the new pastor and say hello and introduce myself. And lo and behold, there was Stephanie sitting in the corner on the chair. And yeah, as soon as I saw her, my mouth dropped, and I was like, "Oh my God, this woman is fine."
Now, I'm doing my best over here not to laugh out loud because for those who are listening, you're listening to the RZNGMEN show, and I'm your host, Craig Carlisle. And normally I have guests in the studio or my 2-channel recording devices is on point, but today is broken. So I only got one channel, so I'm trying not to laugh, interject while you're talking to the man. Because I remember, I think you called me like shortly after you recovered your breath and found your jaw, tightened back up and closed your mouth, and you saw her. Because you said you went in there to welcome the pastor. You sure you were welcoming the pastor, or you coming to welcome your father? I wasn't sure how that was really.
Well, no, because on that particular Sunday, I did not know if the family was with them. Because if you recall, in the AME church, the pastors get moved around, and sometimes it takes a little while for the families to move and to adjust with everything. So on that particular Sunday, I didn't know if the pastor's family was there or not. So yeah, I did generally go in to meet the pastor for the first time, and I just received a blessing.
Yeah, you did. No doubt. Now, tell me about your relationship. Because I should say, tell the listeners share about your relationship, because I know you guys have been married a number of years. You guys have. Share about how many kids you guys have, and then let's talk. So everyone knows Darius's wife is recovering from breast cancer surgery, and so you guys' relationship has been, I want to say, almost like a fairy tale. So you walked into the pastor's office, there she was, starstruck, stars and eyes popped. How much longer after that? Take us through that process.
Okay, well, of course, in meeting her and seeing her, and like a lot of relationships start initially with what you see on the outside, and I was most pleasantly pleased. But at the same time, when I first met her, she had a boyfriend. So, I, shrugged my shoulders and said, okay, well, she has a boyfriend. I'm currently 125 miles away. She is still in high school, a senior, but still in high school. I kind of chucked it up as, all right, just another, beautiful woman that I've seen that is out of reach, out of touch. I really was initially resigned to just being an acquaintance and possibly friend, given the situation of how far apart we were living at the time. Lo and behold, things happen, things develop. She breaks up with that boyfriend. There's an opportunity. I moved in as quickly as I possibly could and tried to solidify the relationship. And interestingly enough, when I first asked her to be my girlfriend, she turned me down. She, felt that the distance would be too much. She was just coming out of the relationship with the other young man. So I was like, okay, cool. And then I took her out to dinner and a movie, dropped her off at home. And before I left the house and making sure she got in the house safely, she gave me a kiss. And from then on, we started our relationship, and actually we had a long distance relationship for 6 years. So she actually remained in Oceanside while I was, with you up in Northridge for 6 years. Well, I take that back. For 3 years. And then she ended up coming to Northridge, and then we dated another 3 years before we got married. So we were a couple for 6 years before we got married. And for 3 of those 6 years, it was a long distance relationship while she was attending community college in the Oceanside area, and I was up at Northridge up at Northridge. So, and one of the things that I really, really liked about Stephanie and that really was comforting was that, she was a church girl, and it was the same church that I grew up in and was familiar with. I felt, that we had a lot in common. So there was things that was beginning to develop between us. Aside from the fact that we thought each other was attractive, now we knew that our morals were in place. We both believed in God. She had career aspirations. I had career aspirations. Things were lining up for us. And I really consider, that God blessed us, to be together. And so here it is 23 years later, and we have 3 wonderful kids. We've moved around a lot, lived in many different places, and have been able to participate, in the ministry. As I felt that I was called to preach, right in the middle of being in college and being in the relationship with Stephanie. And interestingly enough, I can remember Stephanie telling me, and this is before I was called to preach, that she said she would never marry a minister because of what she saw her father go through with regards to the AV church. And of course, you have firsthand experience with that as well. But she said that she would never marry a minister because of that. But lo and behold, she married a minister.
Well, she just didn't marry any ministry. She married you.
True.
Well, that's outstanding. So hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. But when we come back from the break, I want you to take people through where you are now, because you're a caregiver. You're on the visitor side of the bed rail, as I say. So when your wife has had to be in the hospital, you're the one that can come and go as he wants and take care of the kids and, go and come help the guys in that story when we come back from break. Understand what it is to be a caregiver, what it is to honor your vows, till death do you part, and in sickness and in health, and as long as you both shall live, and help us understand what that really means. You're listening to The RZNGMEN Show, and I'm your host, Rick Carlisle, and we'll be right back.
Who you hire as your realtor matters. You need a realtor who looks out for your best interests and not their own. Marie Clark with Allison James Estates is a full-time realtor, specializing in helping first-time homebuyers in Temecula and the surrounding areas She is also a ministry leader. Today, why don't you choose Marie Clark to buy or sell your next home? Please call 951-265-6259.
Does your business need to rank higher on the Google search engine? Do you want everything that your company touches to turn to gold? If you've answered yes to either of those questions, you need to contact Bright Media House. Generating relevant customer leads is critical to increasing sales and growing your business. But figuring out which online sales and social media marketing channel to use and how to use them can be overwhelming, especially when you have a business to run. Digital marketing is something every business owner and marketing manager needs as a part of their strategy. For more information, go to www.brightmediahouse.com or email us at info@brightmediahouse.com. And welcome back to the RZNGMEN Show, and I'm your host, Craig Carlisle. Again, on the phone with me via Zoom video conferencing is one of my greatest friends on the planet, Darius Riggins. So Darius was bringing us through how he met the love of his life in high school. You know, he went to the church to introduce himself to her. He went to the church to introduce himself to the pastor, which is her father, and then happened to meet her, and they've, gone on to celebrate 23 years of knowing each other. And Darius, remind me again, how many years have you actually been married, though?
No, yeah, we've been married 23 years. We just celebrated 23 years this past June 3rd, but we were a couple for 6 years before we got married. So we've actually been a couple for 29 years, 23 being in holy matrimony.
Wow. So, I know we set up some of the other questions I wanted you to cover, but first off, you need to tell the brothers out there, how in the world do you all keep it new, keep it fresh? How do you keep that relationship alive after 29 years? I mean, I'm not saying she was not your first girlfriend, but I mean, this was a relationship that you had when you were much, much younger, because we're still young. Oh, Jesus. Yes, we're still young. But this is a lady you've known for going on 3 decades. How do you keep it fresh?
Well, I think that's an interesting word to use. I wouldn't really use that word fresh. What I would use is, when your relationship has Christ as its center, you think more about faithfulness. You think more about being true to your word. You think more about honor. You think more about good times and bad times. The word fresh, suggests that it's always going to be new. It's always going to be clean. It's always going to smell good. It's always going to be something that you look forward to. Marriage isn't like that. Marriage is one where there are ups and downs, where you do get discouraged, where you do have times where you don't know where this is going to go and where that's going to go. But in those times of questioning and in those times of indecision, you go back to the foundation. You go back to faithfulness. You go back to relying on each other. You go back to what it means to, what those vows really mean in terms of getting through. Because, we always have to remember that there is an enemy. There's a spiritual enemy that doesn't want relationships to blossom and doesn't want true men and women of God to come together and can say that we withstood the ups and the downs and we withstood all the attacks, whether they be spiritual or physical in nature. And that strengthening the relationship to where we're confident with each other and for each other and with each other, to the point to where, we know what we're going to do. We know our likes, our dislikes. So if anything, that freshness that you speak of is one that is rooted in so much commitment to each other. I focus a lot on those type of things when I think about my wife, and I would never, and don't want to be with anyone else. It's just her. until death do us part.
No, that's awesome. That's really awesome. As you've gone through the in sickness and in health portion, take us through that. How did you guys even find out that she had cancer?
The very, very first time she had any type of inspection in her upper torso area, a lump was found, and there was a little bit of a scare, and it was decided upon, or a doctor concluded that it was just a milk duct that had, gotten stopped up. It was essentially dried milk or whatever it is that they said, and so they did what they had to do, and it cleared up, and there was no problem. But then years later, when this happened, it was all kind of surreal, because she was diagnosed with cancer, but it was a particular type of cancer. She had what was called a DCIS. I forget if it was stage 1 or stage 2, but the assessment was that she could do one of two things. She could have one breast removed, and the other could stay intact because there wasn't anything found in that one. Or she could have both removed, from the perspective that the information that we were given that said for women that just have the lump removed, a certain amount of percentage of those women, the cancer comes back. Whereas if you get the full mastectomy done, the thought is you increase your chances for it not to come back. And, I really wanted my wife to be comfortable with her decisions. I wanted her to be comfortable with whatever it was that made her feel that she was going to be fine. Because after all, this was her body. And even though I was a witness to what she went through, I was not going through it the way that she was. So I wanted to make sure that whatever decision she made about how she wanted to get this treatment done, that I was going to support that no matter what. And so we had a couple of options. We had the option of just getting the lump removed, just getting one breast removed, or getting two breasts removed. And she often would come to me and say, Darius, what do you think I should do? What should I do? And I always said, whatever you believe needs to be done and what's going to make you comfortable. What procedure will make you feel that you're okay? And whatever that procedure is going to be, that's what we're going to go with. That's how I'm going to support you. And she felt that having the double mastectomy was the best thing. And the reason why is because she felt that she could not go through the breast Chapman's treatment and all that kind of stuff twice. She did not. She wanted to be over and done with and not ever have to deal with it again. And in her mind, the only way that could take place was for her to have a double mastectomy. So we went with that, and knowing that, and even right now, technically, in terms of the healing process, including the cosmetic aspect of breast cancer for those women that choose to go in that direction, technically she is still, in the middle of it. There is still some cosmetic work, if you will, that she still wants to have done, that she has not scheduled to get done as of yet. And again, she'll come to me, what should I do? Or ask me what I would like to see her, how I would like to see her look, or, I chuckle every time. I mean, I don't chuckle in, at her, but whenever she tries to, say, what size breast should I get her, this type of thing, it's just funny to me because I keep trying to tell her, what do you want, beautiful? I call her beautiful, by the way. I don't think I've called her Stephanie in years. I call her beautiful. So I really, my way of supporting her and trying to take as much stress off of her as possible is to not get into a debate on what procedure should be done, how big the breast should be, do you get nipples or do you not get nipples? Those are so superficial to me in the long run of who she is and who she is to me. So whatever she wants done, that's the way, we're going to go. She had even thought about the potential to not even get breast implants, but to get, tattoos to make it look like she had breasts. So we even, talked about that. My thing was support, make her feel comfortable, because I know that on top of the physical challenge she was going to go through, there was also going to be a mental challenge. And as long as her mind was right and her mind was okay, everything else was going to fall into play.
Man, that's awesome. Do you remember where you were when she told you the diagnosis? Or were you with her when you both got it for the first time?
Well, as soon as you said that, I did have a flashback. I had a flashback. She was on the phone, or she had just come back from the doctor after hearing what was going on. My parents were actually in town, and she told everybody what it was. And again, when she was diagnosed with DCIS, essentially what she communicated to me that the doctor told her was there was a growth in her breast that was considerably large. So of course they had done a biopsy to determine if it was cancerous. And it was determined that it was. But the good thing was that it was just isolated in this pouch. But they did say that if that pouch was to break, that the cancer would be aggressive and would spread very, very quickly throughout the body. So that was the reason and necessity for there to be an operation, whether it be the removal of the lump or taking the whole breast itself. But when she announced it, she announced it and everybody kind of was like, okay, we're going to have to, go into battle here. And then she walked into another room and, just started crying. And then everybody that was at the house at the time, we all went and just began to try to comfort her, and we began to pray for her and to lift her up with love. And so that was a hard day to get through. That initial shock and the initial point of getting that type of information, knowing, actually not knowing what was going to happen at that point. That was a hard day, and I know that even right now, if Stephanie was to recall that day or dwell on that day, she would definitely get emotional all over again.
How are your kids taking? Where are they with this whole? I mean, I imagine they probably don't know all of the details like and she knows, but where are they?
Okay, well, you know what? That's actually a very, very good question, and at this point, I really need to make sure that I recognize and give God all the glory. God has allowed this experience to be one that is definitely unique, but we have not had to deal to a high degree with some of the type of things that other women and other families have experienced when women go through what has happened. And so I'll give you some details in a moment. But what I'm getting at is, a lot of times when you think about cancer, the first thing that hits people's mind is hair loss, medicine that keeps you in the bed. You think of people getting weak and not able to work any longer, or at least for a time frame that where they're off work and basically have to be in the house or in the bed. You think of trips to the hospital, blood being drawn, all these things that take place, comes to mind when you hear anyone that says they have cancer. And then, of course, once you find out the specific, what type of cancer, then that might lead you down different paths. But what was so interesting about this situation is, to this day, Stephanie has not had a high degree of having to experience some of those things. And so I give God the glory for that, because she's such a strong woman. One of the things that she told me is that she did not want her kids to remember her as a sickly woman. She did not want to pass away from this sickness and the sickness take her out to the point to where she was in a situation where she couldn't do anything. God gave her and kept her strong enough to where, other than the recovery time as the result of the operation, for the most part, she has at least shown our children that this cancer was, as crazy as it was to deal with and what she had to go through, it has not made her someone that someone can point to as being weak, that someone can point to as being sickly, or a woe is me type of attitude towards her. She did take some medicine that was affecting how she walked, and she was in a lot of pain. But you know what? She told the doctor what was happening, and doctor took her off that medicine, and she has another one, and now she's not dealing with that as much. She's never been in a situation where she's had to have an extended stay in the hospital as a result of the cancer attacking her body. She has not had to be in a situation where, as a result of the cancer and or medicine, that she's had to stay in the bed for weeks on end. She, other than maybe I would say more like 3 to 4 weeks of time, her interaction with the children has been absolutely normal. I mean, our kids are not going to look back on this experience and when they say, Mom, had a battle with breast cancer and chose to do a mastectomy, when our kids talk about that, they are also going to be able to say, but she did everything that she wanted to do. She was still, again, other than right after the surgery, she was still driving. She still went back to work. She still was making sure that the kids was getting their homework done. She remained the queen of the house the entire time. And I believe also what assisted that with that and what helped out with that is the fact that at the time her father was alive. Her father has passed away, but her father was a career nurse as well as a minister. And when this initially happened, or right after the surgery, her mother and father came to the house, spent the nights on end, and assisted with what needed to be done to help her get through every evening, and until her body was able to begin to heal, and she was getting stronger, so on and so forth. So I had a tremendous amount of support. She had a tremendous amount of support, and God allowed her body to heal very, very quickly and not have to go through some other type of things that other cancer patients have had to go through as a result of the cancer. So, we still remain in good spirits. And every once in a while, we think about the fact that, doctors have said, even in spite of having the double mastectomy, it still might come back. So every so often, we think about that. And then also, in terms of, to me, this situation, it almost will never be over. Just today, Stephanie said she's reminded every day of her cancer when she looks in the mirror. Whenever there is a television show about women dealing with cancer, or news reporting on women dealing with cancer, it affects her. She has to take a second take, a pause. She has to think about the fact that, this could have been a whole lot worse than what it actually turned out to be. And if you were to ask her if she would, would she want to take it back? Would she not want to have to go through this? Of course she would say, yes, of course I wouldn't want to go through this ever again. Because of the trauma that she did go through. But again, glory be to God that she and her body was strong enough to bounce back to where if you talk with her right now, you would never know that she had breast cancer unless she told you.
That's awesome. We're going to take another break real quick. But when we come back, you'll be hearing more about Darius' story right here on the RZNGMEN Show.
Hey everyone, my name is Eric Tomlinson with the Tomlinson Group at Rancon Real Estate, where we design the sale of your home around you. With our nationwide network of agents, you and your family are at the center of every decision, conversation, and step of the journey to your next home. From hello to congratulations, selling your home with the Tomlinson Group at Rancon Real Estate is designed to both learn and surpass your expectations. Call me today at 951-970-6727 so we at the Tomlinson Group can begin surpassing your expectations today. We want to work for you.
How do you avoid pitfalls that will disrupt your life? My office is very good with helping families protecting assets, building wealth, college flexible plans, tax-free retirement, and so much more. I am John Treese Wells with World Financial Group, licensed to help million-dollar families, businesses, and everyone in between. You can contact me at 951-757-4202 or email me at jw.nofamilyleftbehind@gmail.com. I'm about your family.
And we're back. The RZNGMEN Show, and of course, I'm your host, Craig Carlisle, and on the phone with me, good friend of mine, one of the best on the planet, Darius Riggins. He's been sharing his story and his wife's recovery from breast cancer. And again, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and as I wanted to put some shine on the caregivers, because we've spent a lot of time as caregivers on the other side, on the dark side, and you wonder sometimes if we're doing the right things. Are we doing enough? Darius, have you ever had those moments when you wonder, am I doing enough? Do I take enough time for myself? Am I doing enough for my wife? Am I doing enough for my kids? How can you help share some light on the caregiver's struggle and the needs for the personal refreshing as well as the caregiving?
Yeah. You know what? I look at that a little bit different than what most people would. And I may not be the best person to ask from the perspective of a psychologist or someone who studies this type of thing and the need for people to have breaks or downtime or making sure that they're being responsible to themselves as well as others. Because here's how I look at it. When Stephanie first was going through this, my mind said, do everything and anything you can so that your wife doesn't have to do it. And interestingly enough, I took pleasure in it. I actually found it fulfilling to purposely do more so that Stephanie would have to do less. And I had no problems with doing more. And even though I may have gotten extra tired sometimes, as soon as I had a thought, well, you're doing this so that Stephanie doesn't have to do it, I was cool. I remember growing up in my house on Saturdays, that was cleanup day. So on Saturdays, clean up the whole house. And so I kind of took that on even more so when Stephanie had the sickness. I started, not only cleaning up some general stuff that needs to be cleaned on a regular basis. You always try to clean your kitchen, try to clean your bathroom. But, here I am shampooing the carpets, trying to grow grass in the backyard and doing all these extra stuff that I know that my wife wants done, but not necessarily things that have to get done. So the stuff that had to get done, I already had a lock on that. I'm washing clothes every day. To the point to where, since the washer and dryer, can go by itself, I'm basically making sure that it's always going. The floors, the dishes, even handling the mail, I'm making sure that she doesn't have to deal with anything stressful, anything that would, cause her any type of discomfort. I'm on it, and that's how I kind of framed my mindset to do. And again, I took pleasure in doing it. And then I think what I did to make sure that I didn't get all, not upset, but just like, like, I'm through with this. I can't stand I'm having to do all this kind of stuff. I think what I did was I made sure that I was also doing something where I was entertained while I was working. So I went to, my sons told me about this app called on the iPhone you can get called Musically or whatever, and you can download any songs that you wanted and listen to them for free. So I went and got my iPhone, downloaded that, and put down all my favorite gospel artists and my favorite songs. And whenever I'm even to this day, right now, whenever I'm doing work at the house, I throw that playlist on and I'm good, because here I am, I'm working, but then at the same time, I'm singing praises to the Lord. And so my spirit is being filled, I'm being uplifted, even though I'm washing dishes, or even though I'm folding clothes, or even though I'm vacuuming, or even though I'm asking my wife, hey, beautiful, is there something that you need? Can I do something for you? I'm also hearing praises to the Lord. So you know what? You got to be a twisted Christian to be singing praises to the Lord and be mad at the same time. That's just inconsistent. Who does that? So I tried to make sure that I was, continually uplifted, during this time and even now. So I think the balance really is just the mindset that God gave me to have in this whole thing, because, also, for every situation or problem that you deal with, as hard as it is, there are certain situations where, it just could be a little bit worse. And, I had to look at it from the perspective, what if it was worse? What if this thing was going in a whole nother direction where you couldn't help, where it was a situation where you couldn't do it by yourself? I thought about that a lot. And again, praise God that I wasn't in that situation for the sake of my wife, for the sake of the kids, and even for the sake of my own mentality. I think God really blessed us and kept us from a certain amount of pain and discomfort, in spite of how hard it was to actually get through. I mean, here I was at one point in time. Here's my wife. She just got done with the full mastectomy, and she has tubes coming out of her body to make sure that she doesn't get an infection, and the extra fluid has to drain out. And I have to drain these tubes. Here I am trying to make sure that my wife doesn't hurt herself, getting out of the bed, walking to the bathroom, sitting down on the toilet. Trying to make sure that that the type of things that she did for the home and the household, because that was just her role and what she felt she needed to do. I've never claimed, and you know this, I've never claimed to know how to cook, and I still don't know how to cook. But the family got fed, praise the Lord. Even taking on roles and doing things that I didn't normally do, that I wasn't used to doing, that I was uncomfortable doing, I still did it with joy, and I did it with the intent of making sure that my wife was okay. As far as, that balance and taking time for yourself, my time for myself was time with her. The kids, yes, I made sure that they were, still getting fed, getting to school, and making sure that, they knew that mom was okay, and they would go in and talk to mom and all that kind of stuff. We kept that, type of stuff going. But, I sure enough did not have time, nor did I want to get into a pity party or get into a woe is me type of situation. That demonstration of strength and faith we had to show to the children. Our baby, Mariah, she's not a baby no more. She's 11 now. But she, asked Mommy the question, Mommy, are you going to die? And here we have this child that's thinking about one of her parents passing away. And how do you deal with that? How do you make sure that you communicate to this child that everything is going to be all right? And then what if it's not all right? What do you do then? All this stuff was going on, all at the same time. And, and even with the boys, they're older. And, interestingly enough, they never really talked about what was going on. They never really got emotional about what was happening. They listened to what I said. I told them things was going to be cool. Things worked out. And so, they're like, okay, mom's going to be all right, but, at the same time, I think my mental ability and my mental strength was totally rooted in maintaining my faith with the Lord. Because if I didn't have God to talk to, if I didn't have the praises of the Psalms, if I didn't have the Word of God, I can't honestly sit and tell you that I would have done the exact same type of things that I did to try to make sure that the family was cool.
That's awesome. Now, as we're coming to a close, give a brief word to the men who are there, who may have they just found out that their wife has, no matter what it is that they're having to give care for, or maybe a man has been dealing with it for some time. Give them a fresh word to be able to encourage men in the situation being caregivers for their wives.
Just maintain open communication with the Lord. Talk to him, and make it natural, make it intimate, and make it consistent. I think that, I sincerely believe that things happen for a reason. I also believe that the type of spiritual things that you do now sets you up for what may happen in the future. When I look back and say, wow, Lord, you spared us from this, you spared us from that. If I was going to try to come up with any type of cause and effect, especially from a spiritual standpoint, it would have to be the fact that for as long as I have been married with Stephanie, I've always thanked the Lord for her. I mean, that's part of my daily prayer life with the Lord, is to thank him for my wife. Even in the times when we was mad at each other and yelling and screaming at each other, I still would thank him for my wife. And so your mental attitude needs to be one of gratitude, thankfulness, and then your preparation in dealing with whatever is going on has to be rooted with God. God has to be right there with you. You got to be communicating and talking with them, because when you do that, you'll have a sense of peace. If you don't have a sense of peace about what's going on, that's when you'll have more stress, regardless of whether at least in my case, your wife is sickly or not. I think that if things had been a little bit worse for Stephanie, if this was something that wasn't caught early to where she had to take medicine that or go through some type of radiation type of procedures that was going to have her lose her hair and be a little bit more sickly than what she was, I know that my attitude and perspective would have been uplifting. I would have tried to make sure that Stephanie knew that regardless of the loss of hair, regardless of her being in the bed, that she was still the most beautiful woman in the world. And whatever I had to do to make her, if I had to do that to make her feel that way, I had to did it. But again, it would be because of my mental. I would not have allowed myself to get lost in the confusion and lost in the pain and lost in the hurt. Because if you go down that road, it's hard to come back. So if you're looking for strength, if you're looking for the ability to deal, focus on what God has already blessed you with. God had already blessed me with a wonderful wife. And regardless of whether or not she was sick or not, I still had to be thankful for her. Why? Because God gave her to me. I think the word says that whoever finds a wife finds a good thing. Well, she was still good, even though she was sick. So I still had to remember, who it was that God had blessed me with. And so that whole thing about in sickness and in health, until death do you part, that's for real. That's for real. And if you focus on, the whole meaning behind that, then you'll come out on the other side a lot stronger. You'll come out on the other side feeling good, not only about your relationship with your wife, but also about your relationship with our God. I mean, when He blesses, He blesses. And sometimes He takes people down different roads and different trails. But on the other side, there's something that you are going to love and understand and thank God for because of what He did, for you at the time that you were going through.
That's awesome. And again, I want to make sure I thank you for being here and sharing your story, and definitely blessing the men out there, the caregivers out there with your story and with your sharing. I know I've learned a lot just in my time. Some things I didn't know where you'd been, and you and I've talked a lot during this process, but you can never talk enough, right?
That's the truth.
And again, you've been listening to the RZNGMEN Show, and I'm your host, Craig Carlisle. And again, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, putting some shine on the caregivers as well, and not forgetting the struggle. So if someone out there in your family and it's close to you is struggling with cancer, had cancer, surviving cancer, striving and going on, continue to pray for them. Keep them uplifted.
Hey everyone, my name is Eric Tomlinson with the Tomlinson Group at RZNGMEN Real Estate, where we design the sale of your home around you. With our nationwide network of agents, you and your family are at the center of every decision, conversation, and step of the journey to your next home. From hello to congratulations, selling your home with the Tomlinson Group at RZNGMEN Real Estate is designed to both learn and surpass your expectations. Call me today at 951-970-6727 so we at the Tomlinson Group can begin surpassing your expectations today. We want to work for you.
Does your business need to rank higher on the Google search engine? Do you want everything that your company touches to turn to gold? If you've answered yes to either of those questions, you need to contact Bright Media House. Generating relevant customer leads is critical to increasing sales and growing your business. But figuring out which online sales and social media marketing channel to use and how to use them can be overwhelming, especially when you have a business to run. Digital marketing is something every business owner and marketing manager needs as a part of their strategy. For more information, go to www.brightmediahouse.com or email us at info@brightmediahouse.com.
And we're back, and welcome to the RZNGMEN Show. And again, I'm your host, Craig Carlisle. And I hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Darius. He's definitely one of the great friends I have. I have very few friends in my life, and those that are out there that if you're my friend, I tell you what, I cherish them. And I say few because so often you say you know people, but do you really know them? Do you really allow them to know who you are? And I've got some really key people in my life that I try to make sure that they know beyond a shadow of knowing that you're my friend and that I love you and that I really respect you and I really thank you for what you're doing. And he's one of them. And on this show, I'll bring some of my other friends in there that are great men of God, women of God, and just great all around people who sow into my life and I sow into theirs as well. Having Zoltan and Darius, great people, great men on the show who are caregivers, it's been awesome for me to actually go back and look and assess where I am as a caregiver. And I learned a lot talking to those two guys. It's an opportunity for us all to remember that life is short. Being a caregiver, we find ourselves on the visitor side of that bedroll. We're able to go home and come and go as we please and do the things that we would like to do or kind of like to do in support of our family, but we're not the ones that are having to stay there. So we just want everybody to remember that if you know someone who's a caregiver or someone who's recovering or still battling any disease, whether it be cancer, you name it, you've got to remember to live your life as if this were the last moment you'll ever have. Doing that will help you do everything that the Lord will want you to do, be real sensitive to the leading of the Holy Spirit, being more tender-hearted in your dealing with people. I have some people in my life that are tough to deal with, tough to love, and I know various moments in the day I'm tough to deal with. I'm a handful. I'm not the easiest person to get along and love, but I tell you what, shows and programs like this, remembering the testimony that I have and where I've come from and where I've been, reminded me squarely of the shortness of life. Had a couple of parents, three as an example. Over the weekend I found that one parent had lost their child in a car accident. Another parent has their child in a medically induced coma because of these complications with the accident, the seriousness of that accident. And another mom and dad are dealing with their son who has leukemia. I mean, parents shouldn't have to deal with these kind of issues with our kids, but my heart goes out to these three particular parents. We're praying for blessings of grace and mercy and comfort and healing for those who can be healed and for the family who lost their child. Definitely praying for you for comfort during this season. Again, if you know someone out there that you have a relationship that you need to fix, and I know I do, I need to work on that. You need to work on that too. Let's work together. Again, you listen to Craig Carlisle on the RZNGMEN Show, and we'll see you all again next time.
It's been a long time. Reach up. You got it.
I'm back. This is Craig Carlisle, the host of the RZNGMEN Show, and I'm back Tuesdays, 2 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. Pacific, right here on WKBY 1080 AM and WKBY1080.net. Tune in and we'll have real talk about real life. This is Craig Carlisle, the host of the RZNGMEN Show, and I'm also an executive producer of the independent feature film Restored Me.
I lost everything for something I didn't do. What type of God is gonna watch a man get up on his feet and then kick him right back down and get drugged through the dirt again?
It's a powerful, feel-good dramedy that centers around a young man trying to restore his relationship with his young daughter and her mother.
Talk to him just like you're talking to me.
Where have you been, kid? These people take communion from me. I am their God.
This film speaks to restoring your faith and pushes a bold message of positivity and motivation. The cast includes Gary Owen, Bill Duke, William Lee, Matt Gerald, Richard T. Jones, Malik Yobo, Yancey Arias, and Bo Casper Smart, just to name a few. Restored Me is available on over 100 digital markets, including iTunes, Amazon, and on demand from your local cable provider. Buy it, rent it. Either way, I'm asking you to watch it. It'll bless your life.
How do you avoid pitfalls that will disrupt your life? My office is very good with helping families protecting assets, building wealth, college flexible plans, tax-free retirement, and so much more. I am John Treese Wells with World Financial Group, licensed to help million-dollar families, businesses, and everyone in between. You can contact me at 951-757-4202. or email me at jw.nofamilyleftbehind@gmail.com. I'm about your family.
Who you hire as your realtor matters. You need a realtor who looks out for your best interests and not their own. Marie Clark with Allison James Estates is a full-time realtor, specializing in helping first-time homebuyers in Temecula and the surrounding areas. She is also a ministry leader. Today, why don't you choose Marie Clark to buy or sell your next home? Please call 951-265-6259.